thing on the agenda is a public hearing. And this is a public hearing, we have David Coleman, property number 44-015-015-021-10, property address 4321 Blood Road, Metamora, Michigan 48455, for a variance request from the Metamora Township zoning ordinance number 23. The requested variance is under Article 15, General Provisions, Section 1500, Accessory Buildings, Paragraph G2. The applicant is requesting an additional 1,148 square feet from the total allowable area of accessory buildings of 3,600 square feet for a 10-acre to 20-acre parcel size for a total of 4,728 square feet. We talked just a bit about how we're going to conduct things this evening. We'll have the petitioners go first. If you come to the podium, state your name and address, and present your case, and we'll have questions for you, as well as any of your representatives. Have them go first. Then the general public will come forward, and anything that they want to address to the board with regard to this public hearing, and again, state your name and address. And finally, we'll have the zoning administrator, if he wants to make some comments, make some as well. And then finally, we'll go back to the petitioners. There may have been questions raised during the other people. So with that, if Mr. and Mrs. Holman want to approach the bench along with your representatives.
Good evening. My name is Phil Bellinger. I am here with Metamora Building and Development. Our business address is 1065 Pratt Road in Metamora. Here tonight on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Holman, as they have contracted with us and asked us to build on this accessory building that we're discussing tonight. Per the Chairman's comments, we are requesting, first I want to say that in reviewing all aspects of the township ordinance, this building is in compliance with everything else within the ordinance on a parcel that is 10 to 20 acres. We're under the height requirement. Frankly, the footprint of the building is not over. Per the blueprint submitted to the township, the building is going to match identically to the residence that is there. Mr. and Mrs. Holman, prior to this, did a big remodel job on the residence. It's beautiful. And so what comes into the question is why this additional square footage? Like showed on this blueprint, essentially, as I mentioned, within the footprint, we would be well within the 3,600 square feet. And I apologize, I thought there would be an easel here and there's not. But if I can refer to page nope, not that one. If I can refer to page 8301 of the print, you will notice that the barn storage area here, what he's asking to do is only have a 10-foot ceiling in it and have a second floor for unfinished storage. So to be under 3,600 square feet, we could still again have this footprint. If this ceiling in the main storage area of the barn was just open 16 or 18 feet to the ceiling, there would be no issue. We wouldn't be in front of you tonight. Again, all he's asking is within the footprint to add a second floor for additional storage, simply because Mr. and Mrs. Holman have intentions of installing a pool on the property. The topography of the property is very rolling. There's a septic field in the rear of the residence, which would prohibit him from putting the pool directly behind the residence. Therefore, part of this plan is to have a pool room, so the pool can be located close to this structure, and he can house the pool equipment inside. The additional storage upstairs will allow him to store things for the pool and other things for maintaining the property there. Per one of the questions on the application, I just don't see, I think this is a positive for the township and his neighbors. Again, from the outside, he has the right to build this structure in the same footprint at the height that it's here. To be frank, a lot of people would get around this by just building this structure, and then once it was done, go and put the second floor in after the fact. Mr. and Mrs. Holman are stand-up citizens in the township. We try to be stand-up as far as our business, and we do here, so we would rather just do things the right way and come to you ahead of time. But ultimately, I think this is a positive for the property. It's a positive for the aesthetics in the township. I think it does nothing more than improve certainly the property value for the Holmans and the SED for the township as a whole. The reality of where this is located, which Mr. Chouinard, like you showed on the first page of this, there's really no vision to be able to even see the structure from the road or from a neighboring property. It's a very wooded area, there's lots of hills. In addition, I just want the township to be aware that there was an accessory building located in this exact location when Mr. and Mrs. Holman purchased the property in 2018. Unfortunately, it was in disrepair. A demo permit was submitted to the township here, and basically the thing was falling down and had to be removed for safety reasons before someone got hurt. So, I'll turn it over to Mr. Holman here, but again, I just think that it's important to look at what the ordinance is trying to protect within the township for all of us that live here. Again, he could build this identical looking structure as it is on this paper today. All he's asking to do is put a storage floor in it, which pushes the square footage an additional 1,142 square feet. So,
what is the footprint of the building itself? If you didn't have the second floor, how many square feet are we talking about?
well, the second square, let me find that on page 3. So the first floor square footage here is 2,529.
25,
29.
29.
And then there is
Well with under the 3,600.
well with under the 3,600.
How big was the old barn that had to be torn down?
Roughly
2,000, 2,200. Essentially, I might add too, we have 6 horses on the property, and we don't have a lot of storage for like hay and stuff like that, so we really need hay storage is more or less what the upstairs is. We're trying to buy it in bulk, because it's hit and miss on availability times per year. So that's really the use of it for us.
And how tall did you say this building will be?
The height is 24 feet 10 and 3/8 inches.
When I went out there this week to look at the property, it does appear that where the prior barn was, which is the same place the new one, it's lower ground than the house itself. Is that correct?
Well, we made a flat pad for the new barn.
I understand that, but I mean, it's actually low.
Slightly lower than the
Than the
house.
house.
We raised it from what it was before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we had water going back into the old barn, so we probably raised it 8 inches. And then we're gonna build up the land and grade around it for possible drainage.
And this is all behind the residence.
Yes, sir. This structure is completely behind the residence. And, to Mr. Holman's point, I mean, we have other ordinances in this township for blight and outdoor storage and things that at times can become, unsightly for things. And so, to that point, I mean, I think the additional storage, to be able to keep everything inside and out of sight, not only from a safety aspect or protecting things from theft, but also from a blight standpoint, is more than warranted, so.
Can any of your neighbors even see your house?
From the road, no.
How about from this side?
To the north, no, to the south, a little bit. But there it is, all treed.
Yeah, I saw it was very wooded.
Yes, it's not easily to see, so.
Anything else that you want to tell us?
We're looking forward to, continuing to beautify the property and, we love the community, just trying to make it better, give them all honor.
Questions from the other members?
That's Hugh Lime's old property, right?
Pardon?
Hugh Lime's old property, that's where Hugh Lime used to live.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
And previous, he's the one that built the property.
We bought it from a fellow named Ray.
Right, yeah, he put the RV in there.
Yes.
Right, Hugh Lime's previously owned that property,
Okay.
so I'm pretty familiar with it.
Yeah, the horse arena that they built, I think in 2001, they didn't put any storage with it. It's stables and a riding arena, there's nowhere to store hay. So it is becoming a problem for us.
Well, that's agricultural property, it's own agricultural.
It is zoned.
A2 zoning on it, so everything in that area is 10 acres.
Right,
This is actually 10.01.
If 10.1 or larger, it's a 20. Something smaller about.
I will point that out too, that, obviously this is on Blood Road in the equine community, and that, right or wrong, or the township ordinance, if it's 20 acres or more, you can build any size barn you want. It's no problem, it's just when you fall within the 10 to 20, we have this provision, and so, again, I think the barn totally, it matches the home, it totally fits the aesthetics of Metamora. It's only benefiting not only Mr. Holman personally, but the community and the SED values here. I don't see how it could have any negative impact on any neighbor or anything like that, so, we would just request that he be allowed, and again, ultimately, just adding a second floor for storage is what's pushing this square footage over, not the footprint of the building, so based on all those things, we would just respectfully ask the board to approve our variance request.
well, that'd be more or less an attic anyhow, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Unfinished.
In a house.
it's unfinished.
I don't know if that's considered square footage or not.
Well, to be frank, Mr. Bellinger, I was thinking like you are. And when I submitted for a building permit, Mr. Israel made me aware of this, and, rather than frankly try to sidestep anything, we just said we'll come to the board and ask their permission, because we think it makes a lot of common sense and is warranted to have the variance.
I went out to the property to visit the other day, and, no, it makes sense, it's out at the bottom of the hill would prevent, any expanding the septic fields there, so as far as the property would allow, and I agree that the footprint's not changed. I don't have any other questions. It's out there to see.
Anything else from you, gentlemen?
We're all
Last time from the general public, anyone wants to address the board with regard to this public hearing? Mr. Israel, you wanna?
Okay, I'd be glad to address the board. My name is Joe Israel. I'm the zoning administrator and building official for Metamora Township. Their particular project is only over shortly, about 3,600 square foot is what they're allowed on ground floor. Their footprint is less than 3,600, but when you put the second floor in it, they go over the 3,600 by approximately 150 square foot. The things that have changed since our ordinance went into effect is types of construction. Storage trusses are now common on buildings. When this done. It really wasn't a common thing to do, to have storage trusses in a building. Nowadays it is. I think the planning commission at some point needs to reflect something along that lines if we continually see this coming forth. Their site plan does show hilly topography. It limits where they could put that building. There's also the picture that I looked at, there's woods or tall trees. You can't really push that thing back any further. And then with the swimming pool aspect to it, it makes total sense to me as a zoning administrator. The square footage of the house is about 4,160 square foot. And so as far as placing a big house with a big building, the square footage of the building is still smaller than the house. The height of the new building is still 3 feet shorter than what they could build. And so it makes sense what they want to do. I don't see it to be a big problem other than it's greater than what our ordinance required by a little bit. The beauty of this is they're stand-up people, stand-up building contractor in our community, respected, and they're coming simply to say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're going to do show and tell now rather than catch me if you can. And so as he said, a lot of people would just build that big footprint, finish off a second floor within a 16-foot tall structure, and nobody would know about it. This way, with building permits, the building code's going to be followed, health safety items are going to be followed, the customer, the owner will have a code-approved project, rather than going to sell the house and then somebody comes through and says, hey, they added, where's the permits? And there have been no permits. And then you use the sale. So in the zoning world, in my world, I don't see a big deal with this one. I like that they're coming forward and doing the right thing up front. I also like that maybe our ordinance needs to address current trends in construction.
Thank you. Mr. Holmes, anything else you want to tell?
I think we're all set, sir, thank you.
And I will declare the public hearing as being adjourned. Next thing on our agenda is the approval of minutes. Board members had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting we had was April 20th of 2023. Any comments, corrections, additions?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the April 20th, 2023 minutes from the zoning
I
board.
second.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Well, before we go on to public comments, let me also mention that we did not receive any mail with regard to the public hearing or any emails with regard to the public hearing. So now we have time for public comments. Items not scheduled on the agenda. Anyone in the public want to address the board tonight? Seeing no one, I will declare the public time is closed. Now we go down to finished business, and that's the public hearing decision on David Holman's variance request. My fellow board members' comments.
I have no problem with it. I think that he could have just went ahead and built it and added the attic later on, or built the wall, built the floor, and used the attic as an attic, like we do in our house. I got an attic in my house over the garage. So I have no problem with it.
Within the footprint, it makes sense, so.
It isn't getting bigger and uglier or anything, so.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Well, the only comment I would make, and I appreciate Mr. Israel's comment, I guess Mr. Bellinger being on the planning commission, that maybe we do need to look, the planning commission does need to look at the zoning ordinance in this particular area.
I think if Mr. Israel would come to the planning commission, we could probably do something with that. I'd be more than willing to do it.
under our decision, the ZBA findings of fact, were that the petitioner wants to build an accessory building with more than 3,600 square feet. The footprint of the building is under 3,600 square feet. Our decision is to grant the variance. And again, the only variance that's been applied for is the square footage as provided in the zoning ordinance. A variance of an additional 1,148 square feet for a total of 4,728 square feet. And the reasons for the decision includes the topography of the property, the aesthetics of the building, to match the residents. And so with that, if the recording secretary would call the roll.
Roll call vote, Darlene Wise,
Yes.
Phil Bellinger,
Yes.
Traci Chouinard.
Abstain.
So now we go on to new business, and no item scheduled is matters for discussion from the zoning board of appeal members. The only thing that I would like to mention, because our prior meeting, one of the citizens passed out a pamphlet about zoning, ZBAs, and also raised the issue of training. And make note that I did attend a Michigan Township Association zoning seminar back in May up in Frankenmuth. Austin Jones was the chairman of the planning commission, and two other members of the planning commission. So hope is that the public will understand that we are continuing to get education with regard to zoning matters so that our decisions are not only prudent but also defensible. Commissioner, I think you-
I did an online training as well.
With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Have a motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.